Ed, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. I'm really pleased you could join our Piscari Insights session.
Well, thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate it, and I look forward to having some fun in the next half hour.
Exactly right. Whereabouts are you today? So everyone knows. Where are you?
Well, I'm sitting in my office. I'm in Caldwell, New Jersey. I'm enjoying a nice sunny day, which will be in the mid 60s today. Nice for spring. There's no more snow. And you and I both have blue matching. So I think we're off to a
We're
good blue.
matching today, Ed.
Yes.
We're matching today.
It's always about
Okay.
having fun. So
It is. So we had a couple of questions that we're going to kind of discuss. So let's start with the kind of first question about the print industry. I mean, you do many things now, Ed, but do you want to just tell people broadly what you do as a business so that people have got some context?
yeah, absolutely. Well, this all started when I was 13 back in Brooklyn, an after school program, began sweeping floors in a print shop. I migrated to a dark room, stripping and making plates, running a press, being a production manager, all by the time I was 19. Fast forward to 54 years old, our day consists of doing printing for various, global firms. They could be Bottega Veneta, they could be Netflix, it could be for the New York Times, it could be for Macquarie, it could be for any sort of legal advertising agency and so forth. And those projects vary client to client. No week or day is ever alike.
Yeah.
And we try to have some fun along the way, providing solutions to people.
And what sort of size are you, Ed?
Well, as far as people go between the two facilities, you have about 85 people. You have three locations if you include the two print facilities and the warehouse. Small office in Manhattan, small office down in Florida. And, we have a sales team of about 10. And everybody is pretty much seasoned and they kind of enjoy doing this. That's the only way I can say we're having success.
And also, when we started talking a couple of weeks ago, Ed, I was from the print industry, so I was on the digital side of print.
Mm-hmm.
My recollection was that in Europe, that was a pretty tough industry to be in, and the consolidation's been enormous. So, kind of one of the things I wanted to just to get your view on was, so how's the print industry changed in the last kind of 30 years, and how have you survived and prospered while so many others have kind of fallen by the wayside? What's happened, Ed?
Well, I'd have to say by always being hungry, but being adaptive to one situation. A lot of companies that fail is because you do something because you make a living. I do it because I love printing. And yes, printing has changed over 30 years. It's gone from an analog, non-digital, making plates and doing one-off projects to having an iGen and Indigo and being able to print on demand in minutes, but took weeks for clients.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
that being said, we've made investments in digital, which make our offerings unique, between our Duplo, iGen, Indigo, and quite a few other devices. We're able to provide solutions that step outside the box and give clients back projects in their hands that really make a difference.
So
So
give me some
that
examples, Ed, of what you've kind of done that maybe like 30 years ago, how you'd have done it, and now how you do it.
good. Give me 1 second and let me show you. A picture's worth 1,000 words.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, this is a project that we did for PJ Solomon. And as you'll see, there's a reflection on the cover. Inside, it is a digital masterpiece. So this piece was going out to prospective clients and investors. This was produced digitally. This has a soft touch coating, and it has what we call digital dimensional. That's how we get the reflection. The client
Right.
only printed 200 pieces. This was done in 2 business days. So being able to provide solutions like this, or if you're a real estate firm that's marketing nice items, sometimes they like a nice UV finish. This is all done
Yeah.
digitally. Something for a direct mail piece. So there's a client that you might know of, and you'll recognize the logo. It's International Council of Shopping Centers. This was a
Right.
piece done on offset devices, printed in New Jersey, direct mailed out of Chicago. And the idea was it had all the appointments of this piece, except digital. This is offset. And last but not least, when Directed goes out and sees its clientele, we believe in, touching, and just like you have 5 sensors, touch is very important, and being able to showcase what you do and make
Yep.
something unique And this is kind of one of our marketing kits, which is pretty cool for a print and marketing company. So when it comes to being able to provide a solution, it's easy to provide a solution when you practice what you preach. And part of our experience has led us to make sure that when we're presenting to a client, it's perfection at a reasonable price.
So talk to
Okay.
me about, for those examples, just go back kind of like 25 years, 20 years. How
Mhm.
would you have done those 20 years ago? What's changed?
Well, we wouldn't have had a UV press. So in the case of International Council of Shopping Centers, being able to do the soft touch aqueous, the spot UV, and the personalization would have probably been about 5 presses or 5 different devices. Nowadays, we can do it in 2.
Wow.
So the economies of scale have changed as well, meaning what may have taken 3 to 4 weeks to do, we can do in 3 to 4 business days. So that's
Okay.
one of the key elements.
And
Your
what's driven that? Has that been the technology that you can use, the digital prints, digital presses?
Well, the technology from digital, of course, has helped to improve what we call offset or the Heidelbergs or Komori presses. And the answer is yes. So by adapting those technologies, and the main manufacturers of press call them Heidelberg, for instance, out of Germany, has
Yep.
adopted a lot of those feature sets. So the answer is yes. And your question earlier was, how have we had success when others, have not?
Yeah.
Not being over leveraged, believing in yourself, encouraging the people who work with you, even when you have a failure, and embracing them. And I know that may sound like a coin thing, embrace one failure. You learn from your mistakes. And the nicest thing that ever happens in this print business is when a project doesn't go your way, you're always there because you never know what's going to happen. So in
Yep.
our case, we've been fortunate. We've had some great people represent us. And the belief is that we're making a small difference. We're not solving world hunger. We're not changing the dynamics of everything. We don't
No.
think about politics. But in our little, call it eco center, we can make a difference to the clients we touch.
So talk about the leverage, not being over leveraged for a second as well, because I know from my experience that the print industry is capital intensive. To buy a new press is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So talk about that not being over leveraged and what's happened to the industry. Have some of the players got too leveraged with debt, and that's why they've fallen? What do you think's happened?
Yeah, I think a lot of players have over leveraged, and the bigger companies that were $50 million companies wanted to be 100 or 200 million, and so on. And in order to do that, a lot of times it's mergers and acquisitions, adapting in antiquated equipment, and having to buy and replace that, and not looking forward and saying, do more with less. Our
Right.
philosophy stems from doing more with less. It didn't start this way for Directed.
Mm-hmm.
Directed, it's been a hard growing, I won't say battle, but it's been a challenge over the years to try to get to the point we're at now. And are we satisfied? The answer is no. Are we happy? The answer is yes. So being over leveraged, is when you have sales that have grown and profits that have shrunk, and you've grown your market share by volume,
Yeah.
not by engaging strategic clients who want to work with you and allow you, and this is the key, allow you to make a profit because they deem the service that you do white glove. Now, there are boutique clients out there or boutique manufacturers. We are not a boutique manufacturer. We service everybody from nonprofits to profitable companies, and it could be a 2-person office or a 2,200-person office. Doesn't make a difference. But you treat everyone the same. And I can tell you that as the owner of the company and founder, I instill into everyone always be happy and always be asking. You have to ask in order to receive. And if you expect, it does not happen.
Exactly. And let's just talk about that kind of that service element of the print
Mm-hmm.
industry, because again, I think what you're saying is yes, there's a physical product, but the way
Mm-hmm.
that you engage with the client, the level that you engage the client at, the services that you offer, being broader than just printing something,
Mm-hmm.
that's been part of the secret sauce that have allowed you to kind of grow and prosper.
Yes, secrets.
Everyone's got some secret sauce. Everyone's got some secret sauce.
It reminds me of Shake Shack or McDonald's. Two old beef,
Right.
special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. And when you think about McDonald's, like it or dislike it, there's a brand and there's a memory and there's a trigger in your imagination that comes about.
That's right.
So the same thing is true here. In order for us to be successful and continued success, it stems from happiness. It stems from a love of serving. And as I said before, a lot of people expect. At Directed, we don't expect. We tend to deliver very well. Now, people would assume that, a big $100,000 project or $1 million project gets treated any different than a $23 business card. The answer to the question is not. So, Mike,
Right.
reverse this. Your blue sweater that you're wearing.
Yeah.
You bought it at a department store, I assume. You didn't order online. Please tell me you went to a physical store.
This is about 2 or 3 years ago. So yes, yes.
Good. And if you think about a department store, for instance, the in our industry, the most important person in the whole operation is our delivery person.
Right.
We could do a project correct, we can print it, it's beautiful, and if that person delivering the parcel does not reply properly to the client, it leaves a bad experience. Walk into a department store and somebody says, "How can I help you?" And for me, I analyze that and say, you're going to educate me about fabrics, what's on sale, or what you make the most commission off of. If it's the latter, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But when you answer from your heart and you provide good, sincere answers, and you do it all the time and continue doing this for, 41 years, you
Yes.
kind of get a following that people say, well, either the guy is on some severe drugs or he's excessively happy, quote unquote, Patch Adams, Robin Williams movie. So for me, I suffer from being excessively happy, as does most of the employees in our, organization. Yes, COVID has affected us. We've had people who've gotten it. We've had nobody pass.
Yeah.
But we've been able to weather the storm, and the goal is going to be to keep progressing as the future, unveils, because no one knows what it's going to be. But helping is first and foremost.
So it reminds me of something I spoke to someone about last week about how you build trust. And
Mhm.
some salespeople think you build trust through it's all about the relationship. But actually, one of the big indicators is reliability. You keep showing up, you keep doing what you say you'll do, you keep delighting the client, but not over a year, over 10, 20 years. And
Mhm.
that's what I think you're saying.
Well, agreed. And the other thing is having the intelligence to back it up.
Yeah,
So, take me personally. I usually think that I'm right about most things. I've learned that I'm not. And when I'm not right, I'm the first to tell
I
someone,
know I'm definitely not. Yeah,
yeah, you're 100% right. And I thank them for educating me. There's
yeah,
no ego involved in any of this. But case in point is this, I'll say, a very well to do real estate broker in New York who's very demanding that I work for. And she has a great following. However, we do direct mail for her, and she insists that her lists are 100% accurate.
right.
We take the gospel and we listen to it, and year after year we continue doing the same projects over and over. And she says the same thing to us. You double and triple mail for us, and I'm like, really? So we looked into the list this year and went through it, and how is the proper way to say it? We analyzed her list and came back with a color data sort showcasing duplicates, and not just duplicates that the postal software picks up, but if it was Jonathan D. Smith or John
Yep.
D. Smith or Mrs. Mary D. Smith or whatever the name was at the same address, but with different apartment numbers. Why is that relative? Because being able to prove to someone that the data that they're insisting that the team makes
Yep.
is incorrect. So by doing that, it did continue to build the trust,
Yep.
showed the intelligence, but it also showcased to her in such a manner that not putting her people under the bus, rather saying, look, here's a smarter way of sorting your data. So when somebody comes in 10% cheaper on a project, would I expect her to change to me? No, because that's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that.
Exactly. Absolutely right. Yeah. Very good. So just talk to me about something else as well on kind of sales and
Yeah.
marketing. If you look at your kind of approach over the last 30 years, I was kind of laughing about this after we discussed it last time, was you've probably tried everything in the sales and marketing playbook that you can possibly think of to sell more work.
Yep.
And the thing that I caught on to was you said something, and I'll just look at my notes for a second. Was yeah, um, giving away your best advice for free
Hmm.
is really important. So just talk to me about kind of over 30 years of selling and marketing. What's kind of still working, and what does that giving away your best advice for free really mean?
Well, let's say you invented a better way to fly around the world on a plane. And let's say that flight might cost more. Actually, let's scratch that analogy. We'll come back because you're editing this.
Yep.
Too much to go that way to come back. Probably one of the most clever things that I've ever done in marketing was by somebody I looked up to as my dad. That was Joe Sr. And when I worked for my first company for 21 years, that's where I learned a lot of what I do today. And the most clever thing we came up with was everyone's familiar with a walnut.
Right.
So we took a walnut, about ye big, cut it in half. We put a piece of tissue paper, folded it up, of a picture of me spinning on my head, preaching about good service. We put a micro-sized hinge on it and our story in a nutshell, little thing coming out like a Hershey's Kiss.
Right.
So I would leave a meeting. I'd be like thanking people for having me in here, and I would flip them one of these nuts. And they would catch it and they would laugh. And I said, look, this nut is leaving, and I'm leaving you my other one here. And you see exactly this, the laughter that I'm bringing to you. If somebody smiles and laughs, they're
Yeah.
showcasing their heart. And I know people are going to listen to this and it sounds corny, but you know what? I have so much fun during the daytime being creative and different. But yes, we've tried everything from poetry. So
Right.
credit to Mick Jagger, fellow UK person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a song, Sympathy for the Devil. Well, guess what? We made one, Sympathy for the Printer. It goes, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a printer of quality and taste. Been around for many long years, provided many jobs, never late. I was around when letterpress had its moments of glory and fame, made damn sure to buy a digital. Washed our hands, no more pleads. Woo woo, pleased to meet you. Can you guess my name? Ed Sanders from Directed. And that is how we get inside somebody's brain and
Yeah.
how we get inside their heart. And there are people who think we're weird a little bit or different, but different and being unique
Yeah.
is fun. And I would rather walk into a store where somebody's happy to see me and I bought a 10-cent little bazooka bubble gum
Yeah.
and walk into a posh boutique and be treated, oh, darling, can I help you? And I'm like, no, I just really want this 10-cent bubble gum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the adage is do more with less. ABH, always be happy. I like using acronyms. And stay away from people who are NNV. That's no nutritional value, which I refer to as corn niblets. They taste good, they look good, but they don't bring substance
Yeah.
to an environment. So again, always be different. Whether it's using silver writing pens on a black piece of paper and writing a handwritten note to someone,
Absolutely.
all these little, call them nuances or idiosyncrasies, make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to instill to the people who work with me and the clients that utilize me.
So Ed, how have you trained your salespeople? So you've got 10 salespeople. They're
Mm.
working hard and they're bringing in the sales for you. As you kind of think back about how you onboarded them, how you trained them, because all salespeople are different. They're commission driven, so they're hungry. How did you train your salespeople to get them to be so successful?
Not very well, might I tell you. Not well at all. Every human being comes with its own set of DNA and its own set of what it speaks to or not speaks to.
Yep.
And usually it starts by listening. And once I understand their abilities, what their background is, whether it's mathematics or science or English or social studies, rather than putting a can in the box and saying, well, you should always be asking, you should always this, the 80-20 rule, you should be listening 80%
Always
of the
be
time.
asking. That reminds me, always be asking. Or always be closing, ABC. Yes.
You see. But after listening to some of the people on Zoom meetings or even before Zoom out in person, I usually let them do the first couple meetings on their own. And then we sit back and we analyze what they could have done different or better, or what I could have done different or better.
Yeah.
And the goal is not to change their approach, their demeanor, what they're confident or capable of asking, but asking questions that are relative to the client. The best analogy is everybody has pain statements. The easiest word to say is yes. Can I have an opportunity to quote? Yes. Are you in a position to change? Yes. Can I see you? Yes. Do you like this? Yes. Why? Because no is a harder question to answer. No requires a lot more thought and somebody being concise, diligent, confident in their decision or their thought process of how they got to a point. So I've trained our people when they hear a no, that's a trigger to say, now we need to dive in and analyze
Yeah.
what the client's pain statements are. Because let's face it, you might say you like royal blue, like your sweater, but you might say you like dark navy blue better. But if you analyze the process in taking the sweater back, regardless of what the store's return policy is, interacting with that person could be good, bad, or indifferent, and maybe having the possibility of not getting what you want, you probably just stay with what you have.
Yeah.
So in our case, it's analyzing what a client has, coming back to them with a synapse that says what you have is great, what we're offering is or is not better. And if it is not better, guess what? We're going to make a recommendation. You stay with who you work.
Yeah.
Why do that? Because there's a saying, always being on the level. And that's the way we operate our company, always on the level. ABC, always be caring as well.
Always be caring. Absolutely. Much better. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the old Glengarry Glen Ross film, it sounds like you like films. I love films as well. Glengarry Glen Ross now probably not a very appropriate film in terms of some of the language and some of the way it treated people. But some of the messaging was interesting, and that kind of like scene around always be closing. No, I think always be caring is a much better phrase when you're selling. Always.
Well, you know what? I remember being married to my first wife, and I remember, getting divorced, and it wasn't a fun feeling. It was her request, and I deserved to be divorced. No and if or a but about it. But what it taught me was after that, losing everything and starting from scratch again, always love who you're with, love what you do. And it took a while to find that. And even when you do find it, the people who you find it with, that I'm still with, and I'll be getting married next year,
Very
think you're
good.
with because you're
Congratulations.
happy, you're loving, and you're caring. And I'm like, isn't this the way all people are? And I would tend to think, if you look at the global population of everyone, 99 and 44 100% of people all get along. You have a small percentage that kind of goof it up for everyone else that's out there because I think in general we all want to help, we all want to do. And what I would say in answering questions is opportunity. Opportunity is there if you're willing to take a risk. You have to
Yeah.
be willing to. And if you are, it usually happens. And if it doesn't mean you quit. It means you try again and you try again. And going back to cold calling, which is how all of this started,
Yeah. Yeah.
to a 20-year-old child, kid, myself, going out, being nervous, not knowing what to say. But I had the intelligence of working since I was 13. So on that sales call, I remember the first client I ever worked on a print project with. And after about 10 minutes, he goes, Ed, stop being so nervous. We're going to give you business. We like you. And it's obviously you've been in printing. And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, rest. He goes, you don't have to try anymore. I believe you're smart enough to do it. And don't let age fool you. So if you have a good idea and you have a great thought, follow it. Don't ever give.
Absolutely. I'm always telling my son, who's only 8, the same thing. Age isn't a proxy for knowledge or power or anything. Everyone can bring a new idea. If you've not read it, by the way, so I'm just reading this book by someone I interviewed the other week. Who's in Your Room?
I've
By
not
Dr.
read,
Ivan Meisner.
but you know what I'm going to do, and it's funny. I'm going to tell you something. I My eyesight's good, but I like listening. Best investment I got. I had to get royal blue to match your sweater, right? Are
Very
these
nice.
beats? Now, why did
Oh,
I?
amazing.
Yes, because you can use them as headphones. You can use them as a
Yeah.
speaker on your iPhone, and you can definitely use them for auditable books. So I can tell you that I will
Yes.
probably be listening to that versus reading it because I
Very
find
good.
it's a little bit more effective for me. So thank you for that, Michael. I appreciate that.
Pleasure. So Ed, just kind of as we close, kind of like, so thank you very much indeed for coming on. I've really, really enjoyed it. As we said, we'd have some fun, we'd have some laughs, and we'd learn some stuff as well, which is I think what we've done.
Mhm.
Where can people find out more about you?
Well, they can find more about me on directedonline.com. They can also take a look at my LinkedIn profile. And the name Directed came from a meeting back in the early 2000s with an agency. And the woman who ran the agency, we were working on a client project, she goes, Ed, you are the most direct person I ever met, and your name is Ed. If you ever start a company, call it Directed. And that's where the name came from. But you can learn
And
more.
you did.
Yeah, you can learn more about me online or call me anytime you want, 7 days a week. I try to work 10 to 12 hours every day because I enjoy this. The other thing is, I'll leave you with a closing poem here. It says, life is but a moment in space. We spend a great part of it in the workplace. Wouldn't it be nice to sit and relax for a while? Maybe sit down and even share a smile. This could be done, one would ask. Let Ed Sanders handle this task. Allow me an introduction, and I'll promise you this. You'll see technology, science, products that really exist. I'll wish you adieu, and I'll hope you had fun too. So, thank you.
Ed, thank you. Brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much indeed.